Hey there, Retro fans, it's Retro Martin here. Now, it's been a little while since I've actually done a bit of a pickup video, just to show off some of the things I've picked up and been playing recently. You'll see from the screen behind me some lovely sprite rotation there. That is Assault Suit Linos, or Linos, however you want to pronounce it, on the Sega Mega Drive, albeit using the, in my opinion, guffy American name of Target Earth, but we can ignore that. It's an excellent game nonetheless, definitely worth picking up on the Nintendo Switch Online to play if you haven't before, or there's an excellent remake on the PlayStation 4 or whatever. But it is what it is. We'll show off some pickups. So I've actually got quite a fair few things. This is going to cover sort of like May and June because it's been so long since I've done this. First two things I wanted to show off were the two Darius collections I picked up on the Switch. That's Cosmic Revelation, Cosmic Collection. This is a collection of a large amount of the Darius games, including some of the Sagaya spin-off ones on or ports on other platforms, including on Cosmic Revelation, the Game Boy version of Sagaya, which is quite nice. I wasn't massively into Darius back in the day. It's one I've more picked up a bit more recently after playing a few of them on the Saturn. So it was nice to pick these up and be able to play through them. Most of them are the arcade ports, but there's plenty of extra stuff in there, lots of different versions of each of them. So if you're a shooter fan, these two are definitely worth it. Also on the Switch, I haven't had a chance to actually play this yet, but what we have is the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. Now, I've actually only played the first game of this on the Game Boy Advance because it sort of feels like a continuous story to me. I didn't see the point in playing the other ones until I'd finished the first. So this should be a collection of both sets of collections. So digitally they've done 2 volumes, whereas I believe this physical copy has both volumes on it. There you go, it even says on the back Volume 1, Volume 2 included, so that's 10 games. So there's plenty in there because they're quite long games, being as they're RPGs. So I'm looking forward to sitting down with this one and finally playing through the series properly. So that was another really good pickup, and I've heard that it's getting quite hard to find physically, so it's definitely worth picking up. I think I got that one, in fact I can't even remember where I got that one, it wasn't from one of the usual shops. Next we're moving on to the PS4, where I've got 4 different things. So first off, I was on a bit of a Resident Evil binge recently after playing the Saturn version of Resident Evil. So I went through the remake again, the GameCube one, albeit I went on the PlayStation HD version instead, which I own digitally. So I wanted to pick up the Origins collection, which is the first Resident Evil remake and Resident Evil 0 put together. I've got both of them on the GameCube physically, but there's a few additional costumes and things in this one, and I'm a sucker for that sort of thing, so I thought having both physically on something that's a bit more convenient to get out and play, because my GameCube isn't actually hooked up at the moment, was quite useful. Next up, I picked up the next couple of titles in the Yakuza collection that I needed. I'm still playing the first game, so Kiwami rather than the original PlayStation 2 version. I'm a little bit disappointed it's the PlayStation Hits version because the where I bought it from didn't have that listed. I would have liked to have had it as the non-hits so it matched everything else, but it's not the biggest issue in the world. The main thing is actually playing the game itself. As a series, I've quite enjoyed it. I think I recall playing a demo of the third one and remarking how much like Shenmue it was until I realised that actually yes, it probably is a spiritual successor. And I actually have 0, Kiwami 1, and I've got the remastered collection of 3, 4 and 5 as well. So the only game I'm actually missing now from the main series is 6. Like a Dragon sort of continues the series a little bit. It's the 7th game with a new protagonist. Slightly different fighting setup. I believe it's turn-based, so I'm really looking forward to getting into that one because the bonkers humour that the series is known for is definitely right up my street. But I need to finish what I'm doing at the moment so that I can then get back on with playing Yakuza. Kiwami, I'll probably start it again because it's been so long since I've played it that I don't actually remember the storyline at all, so I'll start again when I've had a break, because currently I'm playing through the Metal Gear Solid series. Started with 3, going through it chronologically, and I'm just up to 5, the Phantom Pain at the moment, so that'll be the end of Big Boss's storyline. So once I've done that, I was going to take a little break before jumping in with the MSX Metal Gear, where I start a Solid Snake story. So maybe in that little break what I'll do is I'll play the Yakuza series for a little bit, I only sort of went back to playing Metal Gear Solid again. I do either an annual or biannual playthrough, was just because of the recent news regarding Metal Gear Solid Delta, the Snake Eater, or just Snake Eater, sorry, coming for the PS5. I don't have a PS5 yet, but that, plus a couple of other games like upcoming 7 Rebirth and Final Fantasy 16 would definitely spur me to getting one. I just didn't feel like there was enough coming out that made me want to get it. Now, the last thing I picked up on the PS4 recently was this, which is the Metal Gear Solid 5 Definitive Experience. It's got Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain with all the downloadable content included. I already have both games individually, but I'm such a massive Metal Gear Solid fan, I wanted different versions of it. And it would be quite handy having the DLC if anything like the servers goes down or I have to change my PlayStation or anything like that. The only downside is Ground Zeroes doesn't seem to run off your original save, whereas the Phantom Pain will detect your original save, so that's a bit of a strange one there, but it's no major issue. It's just quite nice to have all on one Blu-ray. It means I don't have to get the other two off the shelf every time I want to play them, although weirdly enough they are actually in my drawers at the moment because I did start off playing them before I got this through. So I'm quite happy with that. It's one I've been trying to get for a little while and I was able to get it all quite cheaply, so I was happy with that. The next two I am very happy that I managed to pick up, courtesy of my local retro game shop, and that is Tales of Chillia and Tales of Chillia 2. It is really hard to find copies of Tales of Chillia that don't seem to be European ones, so you can always find French and German versions online, but you can never seem to find a UK copy, which, you know, I've got no problem with other European copies. They've got English language, but it's just nice to have on the shelf everything matching. All the rest of my Tales of games are in English. I haven't actually played either of the two Chillia games at the moment. I'm still currently going through, yes, big backlog, a couple of them. I think I'm currently playing Vesperia, which is one of the more popular ones. I have played Fantasia, Symphonia, Graces, F before, and Fantasia still remains my favourite game in the series because it was just a phenomenal Super Famicom title. And even the Game Boy Advance version isn't actually that bad compared to what most people think, albeit don't play the US version because it's got a really bad translation. They managed to fix that for the European version, which was really, really handy. Obviously, the PlayStation version is a little out of reach. There are translations online, but otherwise, as an actual physical product, it does only reside in Japan. And it's the same with the PSP version, which would be nice if Namco would actually do a release of properly because it's the most content complete version. And speaking of the PSP, it's reminded me that I do actually own Tales of Eternia, which I played a little bit of as well. And that's the true Tales of Eternia, not the American poor naming version, which was actually Tales of Destiny 2. And that's what they called it. So the next thing I picked up was a game that I actually already owned, but I lent it to a colleague of mine and never actually got it back. And that's Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. So I'm carrying on with my theme of Metal Gear Solid there. The game itself is actually complete in box, which is quite nice. I absolutely love this version. I'm not sure if I prefer it to the original because the original was just in terms of its execution, but this was an amazing follow-up using some of the additional features of Metal Gear Solid 2 and, you know, improved cutscenes, but I'm not sure I like the re-recorded audio. They messed with Mei Ling's voice a little bit, and I think she sounded better in the original. But otherwise, as a game, it's absolutely fantastic. It looks amazing, and obviously, because it's running on the GameCube, it loads and saves quite quickly, which is really, really nice. So it's always worth having a playthrough of this, even if you do play the original quite often. It's definitely a worthy game to go in anyone's collection. Unfortunately, it is quite expensive because it's not hard to find, but it's a little uncommon. So I did pay a little bit above the odds for that. You'll notice we are sort of going backwards in terms of console releases here. So we've done the GameCube and now we're going to go on to the Dreamcast. Now I picked up an awful lot of Dreamcast games recently because I managed to fix my Dreamcast. The pins were a bit broken. So, you know, I had to open it up and just bend the pins a little bit just to make it stay on. So once I managed to get it fixed, kept it on for quite a while and, you know, found it worked. So thankfully that meant I could pick some stuff up. So first off, I picked up Soul Calibur, absolute quintessential fighting game on the system. It's absolutely brilliant. The later Xbox port is actually missing quite a few features, so it's definitely not worth owning that one over this. This just executed perfectly on the Dreamcast. I remember playing it back in, I think it was 1999 or 2000 when I first played this, and I was just absolutely blown away by how good it looked graphically, and it just played beautifully. Like everything was really fluid. There was loads of content on the home port, and it's absolutely worth owning. Next up is Crazy Taxi. I'm not amazing at Crazy Taxi. I find it's good in short bursts rather than playing it for hours on end. But as a game, it's absolutely brilliant. Like score attack wise, it's really, really enjoyable. Lots of little sound bites that make you laugh, and it is just great fun. And obviously, starting up, listening to the Offspring belt out is just the first time I heard that. It was absolutely fantastic, and I fell in love with it straight away because of that. Next up is Time Stalkers. Not a fantastic game, but it's quite a fair bit of a crossover with Climax. I believe its Japanese name is Climax Landers or something like that, because it is very much a crossover game. You've got some main characters from some of their previous games, like Landstalker, Lady Stalker, ominous sounding name, I know, and Shining in the Darkness, and then there's a couple of others in there who are from other games, but not necessarily the character themselves. Like I believe Rao is from the Feder strategy RPG series. Very basic hack and slash. There's nothing special or to write home about. I picked it up just because I really, really like Climax's other games. I played a little bit of it. It's not exactly the worst game in the world, but it is very typical of its time. Think similar to Dark Cloud and Dark Chronicle, or Dark Cloud 2 if you're American, on the PS2, where it's a bit of a dungeon crawler, but the dungeons are sort of randomly generated each time, and you won't be too far off. Next up is Choo Choo Rocket. Brilliant, absolutely madcap puzzle game. Again, remember playing this back in the day, and it was just ridiculously good fun because of how simple it is. Yet it's really hard to master. There's not much you can say about it. It's a puzzle game. You save mice from the very, very weird looking cat, which looks more like a Pac-Man with legs and sharp, jagged teeth. But yeah, great fun. And I believe it was the first online game on Dreamcast as well. Now the next two pickups I literally only got yesterday. First one is Record of Lodoss War on the Dreamcast. I borrowed this quite a lot off a cousin of mine. It is a hack and slash, like an isometric one. If you're into the Lodoss or Record of Lodoss War series, then it's going to be right up your street. I believe it follows on from the original OVA, with a bit of a twist on the character that you're playing, so I'm not going to spoil that. I spent days and days playing this game because it is just good fun, and yeah, graphically it looks absolutely fantastic. And then my final Dreamcast pickup is, of course, Dead or Alive 2, which is absolutely amazing. A couple of cracks on the case. It's not the end of the world, but just a little bit annoying. This game, like Soul Calibur, looked absolutely amazing. I think I played this before I played Dead or Alive on the PlayStation, because obviously the Saturn version didn't come out over here in the UK, although I have played that one now. Dead or Alive was a great little fighting game in its own right, but Dead or Alive 2 was just absolutely fantastic in comparison. Like visually, it looked stunning, and it played really, really well with plenty of characters, and it had the sort of madcap additions that the series is quite well known for. So I definitely wanted to own this. I haven't actually played a single Dead or Alive game since. The first two remain the only two under my belt, but I really, really enjoyed it. And the last game shouldn't really need any introduction. It is a Mega Drive title, and it is actually Sonic 3. Now, you can call me heathen, but I actually never owned this back in the day. I had Sonic 1, 2, Spinball, 3D, and Knuckles, but I never actually owned 3. So to do the lock-on, I always borrowed my cousin's copy, which I used to retain for long periods of time. So I was able to play the game quite a lot because of that. But I've just never owned it physically myself until now. I used to have to get by with the Mega Collection version on the GameCube, which did allow the lock-on. And nowadays I've also got Sonic Jam on the Saturn, so I've got lots of different ways of playing it. I absolutely love Sonic 3. I think it's a brilliant game. I'm not sure if it's better than Knuckles, because obviously both are part 1 and part 2. I still think it's probably my third best Sonic game overall, next to CD and Mania. But yeah, my shelf just didn't look right with it missing. So I'm glad that I finally picked this up. So yeah, so that's everything that I've recently picked up. We've recently had the PlayStation Xbox showcases showing off quite a lot of cool stuff that's coming up. Not sure I'm going to be getting any of it anytime soon. The lack of new console. I mean, I think the PS4 and the Switch are the most up to date that I've got at the moment. I'm hoping to get a PS5 soon. But yeah, so that's all the stuff I picked up. Hopefully you've enjoyed listening to me ramble on about some of the different things that I've picked up, and maybe it's inspired you to go back and try out Twin Snakes, or get some Dreamcast out, or realise how good the Switch is for collections of older games. So yeah, I'll see you in the next video.